to appreciate the offerings of all the devotees and the wonderful mellows that they experienced during the course of serving Srila Prabhupada during that year. So it's actually practically a regulative principle for a disciple to offer worship and appreciation of the spiritual master on his appearance day. So we'd like to continue today to do that. We'll sing our songs first, but we're going to try to continue with the glorification of Srila Prabhupada, because everything that we have in Krishna consciousness has come through him. So we'd like to continue that appreciation for as long as possible. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Can you see it, Jason? Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvitesa Shunyavani Aschadesha Charini. Jaya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Jai Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri We play the drum. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Prabhupada ki. I just wanted to find a verse. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, we have a very nice class by His Grace Chamanandaprabhu every Sunday morning on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there's a famous verse in Majjalila, chapter 19, if I can just find it. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Sakale Ashanta. Actually, it's the other way around. The first thing is the devotee. The devotee is Shanta. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Sakale Shanta. It's meant that a devotee, a real devotee, is peaceful. Peaceful. How can a person become peaceful? A person is peaceful when they have no material desires. They have no hankerings. And it goes on to say, bhukti means those who are searching after material enjoyments, material opulence, material positions, material power. We see in the material world, some people are just after the money. They're after the money. And they get into political positions so that they can access more money. They steal the grants and they steal the grants. They steal the tenders so they can get more money. Other people are after power. They want power. Not so much a matter of money in the bank, but they want power over people, control people, dictate people. Then you have the muktis. Those are searching after liberation. They want freedom from the miseries of this material world. That's very nice. At least they recognize. That requires a certain amount of intelligence, even, to recognize that one is suffering, that this material world is full of suffering. That also requires some intelligence, because most people don't understand that they're suffering. People don't understand. They're suffering from the miseries, Adi Bodhic, Adi Daivik, and Adi Atmic miseries. There are the Adi Bodhic miseries, means miseries caused by other living entities. In the summertime, it may be the mosquitoes, or it may be little bacteria that make up a pandemic, even. That's a living entity also. It can be the people at the traffic department who are giving us parking tickets when we park the yellow line outside, unfortunately. They can be the taxman sometimes. Can also be an entity that causes us problems. They can be people who don't pay their rents. They can be all kinds of people. Adi Botek. Then you have Adi Daivik. Adi Daivik means the demigods. Lord Indra is in control of the rain. Lord Vayu is in control of the wind. And these things, the wind can be hurricane or tornadoes. It can be the rain, floods. Some places where there's no water and some places where there's too much water. And even some places that have no water, sometimes they get floods, which is no good either. And then you go to, we used to collect for the temple in Durban by going to Southwest Africa. And they have these drifts. You're driving on the road and all of a sudden you go into this deep valley like that. And that's where the flooding waters would go through. Sometimes they would have these flash floods. And if you were caught in one of those drifts, you could be washed away. So the combination of no water and too much water. Adi Daivaka, by the demigods, by the forces of nature, earthquakes and everything else. And then you have the Adi Atmik. Adi Atmik means those miseries that are caused by our own bodies and minds. Of course, we make a distinction, of course. In the Vedic understanding, the mind is part of the body. It's the subtle aspect of the body. So people are suffering. People are suffering not so much, of course, people suffer physical maladies, arthritis. I can tell you about that. I can tell you about that one. There's, different other diseases that people are forced to. The flu. No, that's Adi Bhotik. But there's so many difficulties that are caused by this body. It gets old. It experiences various kinds of difficulties. What to say the mind? These days, especially, if you go to India, or you used to go to India, you could see people were living a very simple life out in the country. And they lived in a mud hut with thatched roof. But the thing about it was they were happy. They were happy. Well, you come to the West and people have everything and they're miserable because of the mental state, mental diseases, mental pain, mental anxiety, Adi Atmik diseases. So people don't know that they have to suffer these things along with being in this material world. But sometimes they don't even have the intelligence to recognize that they're suffering. Therefore, when a person recognizes that they're suffering and they want to find the solution to that suffering, that is a symptom of being a human being, Srila Prabhupada mentioned. Until a person begins to ask those questions, who am I? Why am I here? Why must I suffer? Is there a purpose for me being here? Is a purpose for my life? When a person starts asking those kinds of questions, not what is the stocks trading today? How much is the dollar worth? How much is the euro worth? How much is the rand worth? Not those kind of questions, but the questions of who am I? Why am I here? Is there a God? So when a person actually starts asking those questions, he's actually a human being. Otherwise, he's a dvipada pashu, a two-legged animal. So people, when they're not using their heads, meaning their brains, meaning their intelligence, for understanding the purpose of life, then they're simply animals. So the Krishna consciousness movement started in the Western world by Srila Prabhupada and continued all over the world, is giving people the opportunity to understand who am I, why am I here? What is the purpose of life? So therefore, all of this information is contained in the Vedic literatures. The Vedic literatures. The Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, the Upanishads, all that information, volumes and volumes of verses 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam, over 100,000 verses in the Mahabharata and other of the Vedic literatures. Thousands and thousands of verses simply to help us understand who we are, why we're here, and the ultimate position of God. Just like Thursday was Krishna Janmashtami, and we're reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 12 cantos in the Bhagavatam, and the first 9 cantos, thousands of verses, are simply to help us understand what and who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, in that 10th canto, is described Krishna's, the Supreme Lord's, personal activities, his personal pastimes, his personal leelas, where he exhibits all of his wonderful qualities and his wonderful relationships with his loving devotees. So that's what we want to hear. We want to hear how we have a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord, with a wonderful person, the most wonderful person. If we know someone who is a wonderful person, we want to spend time with them. Generally, in the material world, you don't find many wonderful people, and therefore you don't want to spend time with them. But when we meet a wonderful person, wonderful person, wonderful person, how many wonderful people have you met in your life? Bhakti True Swami, a wonderful person. Yes. So many wonderful people are there. Kadamba Kanana Swami, also wonderful, wonderful person. And whenever they came, then we made a point of coming and hearing and associating, because they were wonderful people. They showed what a wonderful person is, and that magnified unlimitedly is the wonderful nature of the Supreme Lord. So if we have some intelligence, then we want to meet. We want to meet Krishna. We want to meet Krishna. And how do we meet Krishna? We meet him in the pages of the scriptures. We meet him. We meet Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, Sri Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur. We meet them in the pages of the Shastra. So Srila Prabhupada was so kind. He knew Anarto Pashamam Shakshad Bhakti Yogam Adhoksajay Lokasya Chanado Vidvams Satve Chakre Satvata Samhita. That the material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this. And therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the absolute truths, to the supreme truths. So Srila Vyasadeva and all the great sages, saintly persons, they knew this. How did they know it? You should sit on a mat when you're sitting on the floor. So if there's mats, you can throw. It's not like we're trying to glorify you. Of course, we do glorify you because you come in the door and you'll see Krishna right here. But it's yeah. But it's the tradition to. You can also keep yourself from getting hemorrhoids if you don't like hemorrhoids. If you like hemorrhoids, sorry, not part of the class. Sorry, shouldn't sit on a bare floor. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada was so kind. As the representative of Srila Vyasadeva, and knowing that this knowledge was not available in the Western world unless you went to a library and searched very hard. We have a wonderful library here down the street, the Mandabash Library. There are thousands and thousands of volumes. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, mentioned that if you destroyed, eliminated, you erased, just like you can do on your phone. Sometimes you do it willingly and sometimes it's a mistake and it's gone. But you erase all the books and literature of the world and you just kept Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, there would be no loss. There would be no loss. So, so much information is there in the Vedic literatures about solving the problems of life. And the big problem that we all have, and we all try to avoid, is that we're going to die. We have to die. In the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked by Lord Yamaraj, who was actually his father. He was asked by Lord Yamaraj, he said, what is the most amazing thing? And Lord King Yudhishthira answered very promptly. You didn't have to think about it. You have to very promptly. The most amazing thing is that a man will see that his father has died. His relatives are dying. His friends are dying. His associates are dying. But he thinks, I will not die. I will not die. How do we expose that? Because we make no plans. We don't make any plans for meeting death. And what is the plan? What plans are there? What plans can one make for the time of death? The plan is Antakali Chamameva Samaran Mukva Kalevaram Yat Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Nachi Achar Sangsai. Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, verse number 5. Out of 700 verses, Krishna is saying, one who can remember me at the time, who remembers me alone at the time of death, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So what do we do? What do we plan? What can we plan to meet death? We can plan to meet death by remembering Krishna. And all of the Bhagavatam, those first 9 cantos, are to help us understand what is God, what is not God, and what is God. So if we have that information, then we can actually relish the pastimes that Krishna performs. The most wonderful person. The most wonderful person. The problem is, basic problem in the mature world is we're envious. We're envious of God. Now we have this room, and this is a very special room, because in this room, there's only talk about God. Again, we don't talk about the stock exchange. We don't talk about the FedEx. We don't talk about politics, or we try not to, though it sometimes sneaks in because the politics are so horrible. They're so horrible. The Vedic system has the Varnashram system. They're Brahmins. They're saintly persons who guide the leaders, who guide the Kshatriyas, the administrators, the government officials. They guide them according to religious principles. And therefore, the society is properly directed ultimately toward the service of God. Unfortunately, that is completely absent. So the talk here is about self-realization and God consciousness. Generally speaking, if you go to any room in the outside world full of people, and you start talking about God, and everybody starts leaving. Oh, I forgot. I had an appointment. Sorry, I have to go. Oh, my wife, I remembered I have to pick up my wife. Oh, my kids are at school, or I have to drop my son at cricket practice or something. There's always some excuse. But this room especially is made just to hear about God, which should be everyone's concern. A person who's not concerned about hearing about God is unfortunate, very unfortunate. So Srila Prabhupada very kindly, at the advanced age of 70 years, 69 and a half, left India, left Vrindavan, not just left India is India, of course, India is the land of religion. And Krishna performed so many pastimes in so many different incarnations. And so many saintly persons also performed magnificent activities there. But Srila Prabhupada didn't just leave India. He left Vrindavan, Krishna's home, the perfection, the perfect place to live, where Krishna performed his most intimate pastimes. Prabhupada left there to come to the West. And come to the West meant he also said, if you're going to shoot, if you're going to go hunting, then hunt for the rhinoceros. Of course, it's not a good example in South Africa because we have so much poaching of rhinoceros. But basically, a rhinoceros is a big thing that's hard to stop. So Srila Prabhupada went not just to the West, he went to New York City. New York City. And they say, if you could make it in New York, you could make it anywhere, which means it's horrible hell. It's basically horrible hell. So Srila Prabhupada went straight to the heart of materialistic civilization. And they like to think that New York is the big apple, the big thing, like that. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada went there with Srimad Bhagavatam. And by his sincerity, and he took inspiration from the second chapter, verse 41, that if that a person, it's not vyavasayatmika buddhir, eka means one, ekeha kuranandana bahushaka hiyanantascha buddhayo vyavasaina, that those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. Not a word that's used that much. Resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So Srila Prabhupada's determination was single-minded. And it was sustained by his devotion to his spiritual master, to the order of his spiritual master. So if something is very sharp, very pointed, then it can go through. Just like if you have a big tree, again, not such a great example, but you have a wedge, and the wedge is sharp. All you have to do is keep pushing. Keep pushing, and the biggest thing will go down. So Srila Prabhupada, by his intense, sincere, undivided attention, practically speaking, he brought down materialistic understanding in our hearts. Because we have all this rubbish understanding in our consciousness, which we've accumulated not just in this life, but in countless lifetimes. The body, of course, is only 72 years old, but the conditioning has been in the mind, in the subtle body, for unlimited births. So we have so much impressions in the mental state, in the subtle body, so much misconception. So Srila Prabhupada is preaching to us through the Vedic literatures, especially Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So those literatures, they are the personal ecstasies of Srila Prabhupada and all the personalities of the Vedic culture from many millions of years ago even. Their experiences and their understanding, their knowledge, their realization is available in the books that Srila Prabhupada has brought. So we encourage everyone. We have our shop just across the hall here, and get one of Srila Prabhupada's books and associate with him. He says, if you want to know me, then read my books. So we encourage everyone to associate with Srila Prabhupada. I am his person. I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. That took about 20 seconds for me. Well, it took a little longer. You offer your obeisances. You sit up, and Srila Prabhupada asks you, what are your vows? What vows do you take to practice and appreciate and practice for the rest of your life? No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, and you can go into detail. How many rounds do you promise to chant every day? 16 rounds minimum? All right, your name is such and such Das or Dasi. Takes about maybe a minute. And Prabhupada accepted me, took responsibility for me to bring me back home to Krishna. So he's still doing that. He's still doing it. He's still the preeminent Siksha Guru for everyone. He was asked by a newspaper reporter, how many disciples do you have? And Prabhupada answered, actually, everyone is my disciple. He says, it's just some know it and some do not. So Srila Prabhupada is our guide. And one day a year, on his appearance day, we celebrate his Vyasa Puja. His Vyasa Puja. So that was on Friday. Today is Sunday. But actually, in the Vaishnava understanding, there's a day, it's called Guru Purnima. It's in July, usually. July. And in India, Guru Purnima means the Guru is worshipped one day a year. But in the Vaishnava culture, the Guru is worshipped every day. The Guru is worshipped every moment, should be worshipped every moment, which means that his instruction, his teachings should be valued always. Prabhupada mentioned, and the Vedic literatures mentioned, Yasya Deve, Parabhaktir, Yata Deve Tata Guru, Tasya Te Katita Yarta, Prakashante Mahatmana. That only to those who have implicit faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Generally speaking, spiritual life, it's an endeavor. It's an endeavor to get up early in the morning. It's an endeavor. Take a cold shower, or a shower anyway. It's an endeavor to chant one's rounds. But it becomes automatic. Automatic means easy, easily performed. Rajavidya, Rajagura, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dharnyam, Susukam, Kartam Aviyam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. Joyfully performed. So this is what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And we wanted to go into more detail, and we wanted to perpetuate at least a bit longer in our minds and in our hearts the glories of Srila Prabhupada. So usually we have a book. We have a book. There's a couple of books on the bookshelf there from 2019 and 2018, I think. Vyasa Puja books, which are printed, and we don't know what's happening with COVID. COVID kind of ruined everything. You didn't even get your municipal bills for 3 months, and then when you got a water bill for 5,000 rands, you're wondering, how am I going to deal with this? You weren't kind of putting some money in during the course. Of course, they didn't tell you that. They don't send you a message and say, well, you should pay something. Otherwise, you're going to get this big bill in the end. So COVID screwed everything up. So we don't get the books anymore. And sometimes we don't get much else. But I wanted to read one thing here. And it's, I hope I got the right page. It's a glorification of Srila Prabhupada. And it's by one of his godbrothers. This is an interesting book. It's written or is compiled by one of Prabhupada's disciples, Mula Prakriti Dasi. And she died before the book was published. But she compiled these memories and realizations and reflections of Srila Prabhupada's being in India. And we'll read something here. At that time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, went there to visit this month. All the disciples, Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, Madhava Maharaj, Goswami Maharaj, Madhusudan Maharaj, my Gurudev, Abhay Charanaravinda Prabhu, and many closely related devotees were staying there near their Prabhupada, which means Bhaktisiddhanta. They were talking with each other about preaching. The question was, who will go to the West? They already had some details about the West, yet some questions and answers were going on. At that time, Srila Sridhar Maharaj asked Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada about my Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada replied, Narottam Prabhu, he may go. He is preaching in Bombay in English. He is expert in preaching. I confirm my blessings if he goes. But my Gurudev, this is Bhakti Sridhar Maharaj, then requested for Prabhupada, please Gurudev, don't order me. Don't order me. I cannot agree to go there because of separation from you. I cannot tolerate it. Due to the thought of separation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sangha, Gurudev was worried. His mind was in pain and he was crying. He was a brahmachari at that time, only 27 or 28 years old. He was worrying that if he were to be ordered by Gurudev and then he could not do it, he would fall down. When Prabhupada realized his help, Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, all right, no problem. Then someone raised the question again, and again Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada himself suggested the name of Abhay Babu. He very clearly said, Abhay Charanaravinda, he will go. Certainly he will be able to do it. He is also preaching, speaking in English. So there is no problem that you do not, Bhakti Sridhar Maharaj, you do not go. He will go. My Guru remembered that incident very clearly. How Abhay Babu acknowledged that order and how amazingly it came to be true. So it was offered. It was offered, that instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta, it was offered to all of his disciples. And they were discussing. But ultimately, it was Srila Prabhupada that was selected and authorized and empowered to do that due to his strong faith in his spiritual master. So we celebrated Janmashtami on Thursday. But one cannot, and the appearance of Lord Krishna. But ultimately, Krishna is delivered. He is delivered by the spiritual master, by the pure devotee. And there's a very wonderful story in that regard. Srila Prabhupada was preaching in Madras, in Chennai. And he was staying with this very pious and respected high court judge. And Prabhupada's disciples were also staying there. And Malati Devi and Shyamasundar Prabhu had brought their young daughter. Her name was Saraswati. And she had free reign. She could walk into Srila Prabhupada's room anytime. If we wanted to go into Prabhupada's room, there was always a person to find out what is our business, like that. But she could go in whenever she wanted. So this High Court judge, he took attraction to her, and he gave her a gift. It was a solid silver deity of Krishna. Solid silver. So Prabhupada thought, oh, it's a little too much to give a little 3-year-old child. So then he took the deity and he was going to replace it with a sandalwood deity. So Saraswati burst into the room and she was crying. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Somebody's taken Krishna. And she was crying. She was in so much anxiety that Krishna was gone. Krishna was gone. And One of the devotees who understood the situation said to Saraswati, Saraswati, who has Krishna? Who has Krishna? And she's looking at all the devotees. Who's got Krishna? And then she knows, Prabhupada has Krishna. So then Prabhupada pulled the deity out. Okay. So the spiritual master is able to give. We were singing a song yesterday, O Hey Vaishnav Thakur. And in the song, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I'm simply running behind you, shouting Krishna, Krishna. So that is the Vaishnava, the real Vaishnava, is that he is delivering Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada very kindly did that. We have some questions. I'm going to run over a little bit. I hope it doesn't hurt the schedule. Question 1. How can one take shelter of a senior devotee in order to learn about the love of Krishna that is supposed to bind us all to attain peace equivalent to that of Sanatana Dharma? That's a very nice question. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that there are different ways that one can associate. Of course, we generally associate by Devati Pratigrinati Guyam Akyati Prichtati Bhukte Pujayate Chaiva Sadvidam Priti Lakshana. That one shows love, one shows affection by giving gifts. Giving gifts. Christmas comes, everybody's ready. Everybody's ready to get the gifts. What am I going to get? And if we're at least, we give because we know we're going to get, Well, they didn't give me a gift last year, so I'm not going to give them a gift. It's just like business. You give and I give you back. Like that. But just to spontaneously give a gift, that's nice. People appreciate, oh, you went to India, you brought me something back. Or it was on sale, so I bought it and I thought I'd give it to you. Giving gifts, accepting gifts. See, somebody gives you a gift. No, I don't want it. I bought it for you. I don't want it. Kind of insult. So you have to accept contributions and things. Giving gifts, accepting gifts. Inquiring confidentially about spiritual life. How do I make progress? How do I understand? This is part of it right here, this question. Inquiring confidentially and revealing one's mind and confidence. This is a tricky one. A tricky one because you don't want to reveal your confidential problems or information or knowledge to someone that won't keep it confidential. And that's can be a problem. So one has to find those people who will keep one's exchanges also confidential. So one has to be careful in that regard. Otherwise, it will be all over town. They say, of course the men say. What do they say? There's telephone, there's telegraph, and then there's telewoman kind of thing. Yes. Anyway, Hare Krishna. And then there's offering prasadam and accepting prasadam. So these are the general ways that devotees share love, actually. So taking shelter Taking shelter means to appreciate the uh, instruction or uh, the knowledge that devotee can give, one's experience. Ultimately, again, it's all coming. It's ultimately all coming from Krishna. It comes from Krishna, the complete pure knowledge, and it's passed down through the disciplic succession to the current uh, acharyas and devotees. So if one appreciates the shiksha that is being given, and of course it will be appreciated to the degree that it's coming through the disciplic succession without any contamination, without any change. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that a devotee is like a postman. Of course, they're closing all the post offices now, so what can you do? What can you do? They still have some postmen. Of course, they probably won't be able to pay them either, so then they'll get rid of them. Then you'll just have to walk the letter to your neighbor or something. It's getting completely. Anyway, what to say? A postman, what does a postman do? He may bring your SARS refund, or there used to be a television program in America called The Millionaire. The Millionaire, and this person was a billionaire, and he used to send checks of $1 million to someone like that. And then the whole program was about how this person actually deserved this money due to their service to other people, like that. So the postman just delivers. He doesn't put anything in it. He doesn't take anything out, hopefully. Hopefully. Of course, you don't want to send cash to the mail because they'll scan it and take it out. That also happens. But in the ideal world, then the postman, he just delivers. He takes the information from his spiritual master and he delivers it without changing it. So one can take shelter of such a devotee by hearing their siksha, their speaking, and it ultimately will lead us to this love of Krishna. So, and as we practice, it's not automatic in many ways. It can be, but it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. So one has to be, in a previous verse, also from the same Rupa Goswami, same book, Utsahan Nishchaya Dharya Tat Tat Karma Pravartana. Utsahan means one has to be enthusiastic in practicing spirit, in chanting, in hearing, remembering, worshiping, serving, and all the aspects of devotion. One should be enthusiastic. Utsahan Nishchaya. Nishchaya means one has to be confident that this process will work, the process that I'm being given, the process that this person has been following. It will work. It works. We can see in the lives of different devotees how it's working. It's working. They're happy. How can they be doing this for so many years? Are they complete idiots? Are they complete idiots that they're doing this for 50 years? They're complete idiots. They're retarded. They're crazy people. Or are they getting something out of it? Are they tasting something that I can't see? That I can't see. They're getting something out of it. There's a famous story of Sanat Goswami and the touchstone. Touchstone means you touch it. You touch it to aluminum and it becomes gold. You touch it to whatever, metal, it becomes gold. Sanat Goswami had a touchstone. And this person found out he's got a touchstone. So he went to Sanat Goswami. He said, please give me this touchstone. It will make my life so wonderful. And so I said, sure, you can have it. Well, where is it? Oh, it's over there. It's in the garbage pit over there. So then he dug it and he found it. Yes. And somehow he also thought, well, if you keep the touchstone in the rubbish, that means you must have something better. I said, oh yes, I do. I have something much more valuable. I said, well, give me that. Okay, I will, but one condition, you gotta chuck the touchstone in the Jamuna over there. So he had to have the faith that he's going to get something better. And he did. He did it. He took him a bit of a choice to make that decision, to throw a touchstone in the Jamuna where he'll never get it again. And then Sanat Goswami gave him the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So you might be thinking, well, that was stupid. That was stupid. No, but it's not. Because that's eternal happiness, not temporary happiness that lasts a few years and then the government takes it away or you get robbed, somebody shoots you for it, or you lose it in some custody battle or whatever. The holy days, there's eternal bliss. So, and that undertakes real peace. It will come. One has to be patient. Daryat. One has to be patient. Right. Really running over. In your talk, you mentioned that Krishna is the most wonderful person, but how can we know that? Well, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, 1975 March. Srila Prabhupada had come there, and he gave the arrival address. He would come and speak. Usually he spoke for 15, 20 minutes. This was the shortest arrival address. It lasted about 2 minutes. Prabhupada said, I've come here, I've been in Caracas, I've been in Miami, and I've come here. He said, I see that your temple is the best. And the boys went, like that. And then Prabhupada looked at the oak and he said, I see Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are here. He said, they have traveled so far. They have traveled so far to come here. And he said, they are so kind. They are so kind. And then he burst into tears. And Devanamrita Swami, who was there, said that he got wet from the tears of Srila Prabhupada. And he stopped, he couldn't speak. And then the devotees started chanting and he left. It took 2 minutes. So I was leaving the temple room behind Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Vishnu Jan Swami. Just happened like that. And Tamal Krishna turned to Vishnu Jan Swami and he said, you can know that there is God when you meet the person who loves him. So when you meet a real lover of God, like Srila Prabhupada, and devotees, there are devotees who are loving God. They're loving God, He's there. And you can bathe Him You can dress him, you can feed him. That whole process is there. So you meet the devotees, you serve the devotees, then you can know. It's not such an easy thing. It's not cheap. Well, show me Krishna. I want to see God, so God is going to come and dance in front of me. I've been damning him and cursing him and avoiding him for millions of lifetimes, and he's going to come. Well, I'm going to come. Krishna's going to come. Not so easy thing. If I want to see President Ramaphosa, it's not easy. If I wanted to do, I still have to go to a lot of people and take a lot of time. What to say, God? So we can know. We can know by meeting the devotees and hearing from them and hearing from Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. You mentioned that we meet Krishna in the pages, and Prabhupada mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that a serious student must dive in. But we've heard some devotees say that you're not qualified to read such and such book. But why did Prabhupada give us all this literature and mention Acharya's books? So, well, if you're referring to reading other Acharya's books, you can read them. Prabhupada encouraged in that verse. But read Prabhupada's books first. Because we can't. He's particularly delivered these books so that the people of the Western world can understand. So he's our particular teacher. He's the teacher of our class. You go to university and you're in Psychology 101. There's also a Psychology 201 and a Psychology 301, but you can't go there. You have to go to 101 first. So, not that Srila Prabhupada delivered just the basics. He delivered everything. But he's our particular teacher in the Western world who can deliver us that information the best way for us to understand. What was? There's more. What made, I guess, Srila Prabhupada go to New York? Was there WhatsApp, cell phones, emails, and regular phone calls? I don't understand. Was there? No, there was nothing. I guess this is the point. There was nothing there. Just hard materialism. If I traveled like I went to London, I stayed at their temple. They took care of me. I didn't have to go out and cook my own food or find food or buy food. There was prasadam there. There was a place to stay, a nice room with a bed and Wi-Fi. I was taken care of. What is your problem? There was nothing, nobody, no one. There was not a temple that you could call and come for the Sunday feast and get a free meal. Wasn't there. There was nothing. Nothing at all. And so much of what has happened to Western culture has changed. People didn't even know how to spell vegetarian. What is a vegetarian? What animal is that? People had no idea. And now the world has changed. You've gone beyond vegetarian to vegan even. But that's all due to Prabhupada's influence. And it will change more. All we have to do is keep pushing. Keep pushing our own spiritual endeavor according to the direction that Srila Prabhupada is giving in all of his books and followed by his devotees. And it will happen. The world will become a peaceful place. Can you imagine? It may take a few lifetimes, but it will happen. Okay, so thank you very much. Sorry we've gone over too much again, but thank you for coming and listening. And again, we just want to show that all of our endeavors are ultimately uh, uh, for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. And if we don't give proper respect and appreciation to him, then our progress will not be very uh, continuous. So if we keep Srila Prabhupada in the center of our Krishna activities and always pray for his mercy, mercy. We're not merciful people. We're just not. You got to pay for it in the material overflow. I don't like you, I don't do you. But that's what a saintly person does. A saintly person just gives, no consideration. They're not into business. They're into kindness and mercy, not justice. Not justice. They're into mercy. So Srila Prabhupada is into the mercy business. He can give us his mercy, and hopefully we will also give some mercy to other people by giving them Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Shri Nitai Madhachan Nitai Gaur Hare Krishna. So now we'll have Guru Puja, the opportunity to offer Srila Prabhupada a few petals in exchange for his wonderful kindness. Hare